It is questionable if all the mechanical inventions yet made have lightened the day's toil of any human being. Marx says to this quote by John Stuart Mill that was never the point of machines anyways. Stupid Mill, making naive remarks over here. Before we move on with the chapter, I want to say real quick that chapter 15 is quite long. It has over 100 pages, so we're just not going to cover all of that, as not all of it is relevant to Marx's greater ideas, and some of it is just Marx repeating stuff from previous chapters. Also, we're going to leave out quite a large part about the Factory Acts in England, which is a part that's towards the end of the chapter. So if you're watching for college, or if you want to go into it in greater detail, you should probably read the full chapter, as this video won't be able to cover all of it in detail. The point of machines, according to Marx, is to increase the surplus value the capitalist can extract out of a production process by making it more efficient, which is also something that tools do. So what's even the difference between a machine and a tool? Tools are present in machines, but a machine, once set in motion by a worker, performs with its tools the same operations as the worker formerly did with similar tools. In other words, no more workers needed. In manufacturing, one machine soon becomes part of a larger system of machines that all work together. As we mentioned, this helps the capitalist to create more surplus value. But the machinery itself doesn't actually create value. It transfers the value that it has, as the machine is just constant capital, to the product that it makes. So value from the machine is being transferred to the product that is being made. This happens very slowly over time, or as Marx puts it, only piece by piece into the process of valorization. And it happens mainly through depreciation of the machine, which will eventually render the machine worthless. Another effect of the introduction of machinery into production is that it allows for the employment of much more women and children. You really don't need to be that physically strong to sit on a crane that lifts stuff versus lifting stuff yourself. It also makes the working day longer, as the workers can do less energy-intensive tasks for longer. This in turn leads to an intensification of labor. So in a way, the machines are really doing the opposite of what the workers thought they would do. They end up intensifying, not lightening the labor. Additionally, this generally leads to de-skilling of the working class even more, which we already talked about in the previous chapters as the effect of the division of labor in general. But here Marx writes that machines push this even further. So in a way, workers are in conflict with machines, and there is a long history of this playing out, and you can still see today. Machines typically improve the speed and efficiency of different tasks, and in the process almost always render the worker useless. Because a machine is an instrument that produces commodities, it really competes with the worker. Now, many economists of Marx's time argued that this isn't necessarily a competition where one wins and one loses. Machines increase the amount of capital that can be generated in the labor process, and lots of mechanics will need to be employed to create more machines. Now, Marx doesn't agree with that logic at all. He argues that this is illogical and points out that not as many jobs are created by the production of machines as are displaced by their use. Also, you can't just take someone who used to cut wood and make him a mechanic. Some skills aren't transferable, and not every worker is going to be able to make that transition. And let's be honest, are you really going to tell a 60-year-old carpenter who's just been laid off because a machine replaced him that he needs to be a software engineer now? I doubt it. So as you can see, 150 years later, we're still having this exact discussion. And no one side has been able to definitively prove that they're right. But it seems that although we're at a much higher rate of automation compared to when Marx was writing, globally unemployment is much lower than in those days. So I would argue that so far the classical economists seem to have been right. Or at least Marx hasn't been able to prove them wrong yet. It's anyone's best guess if he ever will. I just want to point out real quick that the last remark was obviously not the original material, but just sort of my perspective. So if you disagree with me on that, or you think I'm wrong on something, please point it out in the comments. I'm willing to debate about this, and I'm willing to be wrong. So challenge me if you think I'm wrong, or agree if you think I'm right. Hey folks, we made a video about the top 10 ideas from this exact book, so click here to check it out.